We made it back. We are in Atlanta. We got to the airport this morning and we drove home. We got home at 1:30 in the morning. And so we've been home for 12 hours. It's bittersweet, but it feels good to be home, to sleep in our own beds. So yesterday morning, we were in Munich. We got up and we went to the airport. We got to the check-in counter, and the guy at the check-in counter told us that they were looking for volunteers to give up their seats on the plane because they had overbooked the flight. And they were offering 500 euro to people who volunteered. 500 euro per person. And they got to stay in a 5-star hotel, and they got free food and free drinks. So Dad couldn't have done it because he had to work, but me, Mom, and Andrew all volunteered. You know, we jumped to volunteer, and so we got on the list. We went through security. We went to the gate, and we waited until everybody had boarded the plane, and they called us up, and they said, "Well, we don't need you to volunteer. We don't need your seats, so you aren't going to get the 500 euro you're going to get on this flight. But for volunteering, you get bumped up to business class." So we flew home on business class. But that's not the end of the story. We got on the plane, we started backing up, and they had to turn the engines off. There was something wrong with the electrical system. We sat on the runway for 5 hours because they couldn't figure out how to get the engines to work. They had to call mechanics, and then they had to call on the phone in San Francisco, and they had to get people out there to sign them off that they were okay. And it was 5 hours. So we watched 2 movies in that 5 hours, and we didn't get any food or anything. So once we took off, it was alright. Being in business class, it was pretty nice. We got better food. Personally, the space wasn't that much better. I mean, it was nice to be able to recline, put your feet up and everything, but it was basically like being in an economy class, except for the food. It was very good food. And so we flew for 9 hours. It was a 9-hour flight, but we had been on the flight for 14 hours, and we got to Chicago. And in Chicago, we got onto our tiny little 70-person airplane, and we flew to Atlanta. When we made it to Atlanta, we were 5 hours behind, so we had to catch a later flight from Chicago, but we made it home. Unfortunately, we didn't get 500 euro. Actually, it would have been 1,500 euro for 3 people, but that's alright. I mean, maybe next time. So, it's good to be home. It's hot here. Very humid. It's like walking into a wall when we got off the airplane. But it was very good to sleep in our own beds last night. It's a fun trip. I can't wait to do it again.